Welcome to the program. I'm Okbayemi Owosheni. We start off with business news. Now, despite persistent challenges such as economic strains, resource deficits, and long-standing insecurity, the Nigerian government says Nigeria's economy remains on a steady path towards growth. Nigeria's Minister of Information has outlined the country's economic and political progress, reaffirming the government's commitment to achieving its ambitious $1 trillion economy target. The Minister of Information says collaboration between the Nigerian government and state governors is helping to free up resources for essential projects and enabling leaders at all levels to meet democratic promises to citizens.
Endure some pain, and this is what we have gone through. But I can tell you that Nigeria's economy is now on a solid footing, and it is going towards the destination that Mr. President has promised. The $1 trillion economy, we're gradually going there. Food sufficiency, we're going there. Insecurity that has bedeviled this country for a long period of time is being tackled by Mr. President, being tackled by all the governors. The kind of deficit that the governors and the central government is having in terms of resources is also being tackled. You can see that resources are being freed for governors and the central government to have enough for them to deliver the promises of democracy that they've given to their people. I think it's work in progress, but we're happy with where we are going. We think that Nigeria will be better off for it. Well, my job is to communicate, to tell Nigerians what is happening, to tell Nigerians the effort that government is making, and we have come here to consult, to discuss, and it is that same messaging. As Minister of Information, I don't build roads, I don't build hospitals, I don't construct classrooms. My job is to ensure that the business of government is known to Nigerians. And this is one of such consultations that we do to ensure that Nigerians get to know about policies and programs of government so that all of us will be in alignment for the progress and for the unity of our dear country.
The Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, NMDPRA, has reported a significant decline in fuel consumption for June 2025, with total fuel evacuation falling to 1.44 billion litres. The Director of Public Affairs, George Ene Ita, confirmed this in a report that daily fuel consumption had averaged 48 million litres, correcting earlier reports that suggested a lower figure of 38.94 million litres. Now, breaking down the fuel supply figures, the NMDPRA report stated that in June, the automobile gas, oil, called diesel saw a slight increase in diesel supply by 1.73%, reaching 432.18 million litres when compared to May's 424.83 million litres. We'll go on a break now and be back with company news. Welcome back. The Dangote refinery has reduced the ex-depot price of premium motor spirit, commonly referred to as petrol, from 850 naira to 820 naira per litre. A statement signed by the Dangote Group Chief Branding and Communications Officer Anthony Chijena disclosed this on the 12th of August 2025. It added that in line with its dedication to operational excellence and sustainable energy solutions, the refinery would commence the phased deployment of 4,000 compressed natural gas power trucks for fuel distribution across Nigeria, effective from the 15th of August 2025. Salon Company News, First Holdco has informed the Nigerian Exchange Limited and the investing public that its board of directors have accepted the retirement notice of Samson Oyewale Ariyibi, the company's executive director and chief financial officer, expressing their gratitude for his meritorious service to the group. The announcement was made public on August 12, 2025, through a notice signed by the company's secretary, Adewale Arogundade. According to the board, Ariyibi's retirement will take effect on August 15, 2025, ahead of the completion of his current contract. Now, we'll take a quick break now, but when Money Matters return, we'll dive into Nigeria's impressive capital importation numbers for the first quarter of 2025. Stay tuned for all the details right after this break. Welcome back. Nigeria recorded a total capital importation of $5.642 billion in the first quarter of 2025. Now, this is according to the National Bureau of Statistics, and this represents a 67% increase when compared to the same period in 2024 and almost 11% higher than the last quarter of 2024. Portfolio investment dominated the inflows, totaling $5.2 billion, while foreign direct investment was relatively low at just $126 million. The banking sector attracted the largest share of funds, receiving over $3.4 billion. That's more than half of all the capital brought into the country. Now, most of this capital came from the United Kingdom, which contributed over $3.6 billion. That's about 6.5% of the total. Now, geographically, Abuja and Lagos accounted for over 99% of where these investments landed. Now, to help us understand what these numbers mean for Nigeria's economy, investors' confidence and policy, I'm joined by public policy enthusiast Mr. Femi Oladele. Thank you for joining me on the program, Mr. Oladele. Now, Nigeria recorded $5.642 billion in capital importation in the first quarter of 2025. That's an impressive 67.12% increase from the first quarter of 2024 and a 10.86% rise from the fourth quarter of 2024 as well. Now, what does this sharp growth say about investor confidence and the country's economic direction?
It's a pleasure to be here once again. I'm a bit more pessimistic about the figures being brandied about, especially among the media team and everything. Yeah, I'm not denying the fact that those figures came into Nigeria, but you know, when you look at the breakdown, we're not seeing lots of patient capital come into Nigeria because we had more foreign portfolio investments than foreign direct investments. And sincerely, if we want to grow our economy to the $1 trillion economy that the president mentioned, then it's not the FPI way. We are looking for FDI. But generally, if we look at specifically responding to your question about investors' confidence, I think that the facts are there that Africa, Nigeria specifically, is a great market. And so many investors would want to definitely come in and take positions that enable and enhance their investment. So yes, they are looking at Nigeria and they're like, oh yes, this is a great market. But also I'm a bit cautious because I understand that it's just an in and out for most of them and not necessarily a staying investment. And what we necessarily need at this time in Nigeria is something to boost our infrastructure, energy, electricity, with respect to internet and all of that. And these things are not cheap. And I don't think that FPI is the solution at this time. But it just shows that, oh, there is potential in the Nigerian market. And that is also a good signal for us generally.
Now, portfolio investment accounted for $5.204 billion out of the total amount that we saw, while foreign direct investment was just $126.29 million. Now, how exactly do you think we should interpret this heavy tilt towards portfolio inflows, and what are the potential risks or benefits for Nigeria's economy?
So basically, that was exactly my point when I answered the first question before I digressed a bit. And the truth is that because of the seeming challenges that we have in Nigeria with respect to our political climate, our economic situation with inflation and all of that, and also some peculiar challenges that we have, insecurity in most of the north central, some parts rather of the north central, many parts of the northeast and the northwest. It doesn't give comfort to investors, and you know that that's what also increases cost of capital. So many people would not want to bring FDIs because they are not certain of what can happen. And so I think that is significantly affecting some of the response. And people are saying, okay, investors rather are just moving to FPIs rather than FDIs. FDIs take time to generate returns. FPIs can be as quick as the short term, 3 months, 6 months. And so, and that's why I told you, I mentioned then that I am a bit pessimistic about the results, because if we see the inflows, when do those monies go back out? If we have that information, then we might be able to say, okay, this investments, these inflows are staying for a longer period. But it just shows that many patient investors don't have significant trust in Nigeria yet. And this is normal because of the challenges that I had mentioned. But for the FPIs, that's a good one also. But you, like I said, it's not what we need at this time. It's good, but it's not necessarily what we need to make significant growth and progress in Nigeria.
Well, now let's talk about the banking sector. The banking sector alone received about $3.127 billion. That's 55.44% of the total. That's more than half. Now, with the finance sector following at $2.097 billion, now what does this concentration of funds and financial services reveal about investor behavior and the structure of Nigeria's economy?
Yeah, so basically, the financial services sector in Nigeria has always been booming. And the truth is that we need, because we're even moving to more cashless society, we are saying that financial services is like a given in Nigeria. Most times these days, people do financial services. And even if you look at most of the unicorns that we have in Africa, they're in the financial services sector. And so while that segregation might look good, and what I mean is that push financial services to Africa, and let's leave the real sector in other parts of the world, it doesn't go well for us, because most of the I would say raw materials that are used for significant productions can be found in Nigeria. So I don't know why our manufacturing I shouldn't say I don't know. It's not right that our manufacturing sector is not overpowering the financial services sector. But like I said also, financial services sector is doing well. It's stable. We're doing very well, and so it's expected that investors will be eyeing those sectors to say, okay, how can I maximize returns? Because most times investors' goal is just to maximize returns, and they look for where they can get it quick and fast enough. And many times we also say in financial services that the return of your investment is somehow greater than the return on your investment. Yes, the return of your investment is greater than the return on your investment. So many investors, especially foreign investors, are looking at how to maximize their returns. And so the financial services sector is one that is doing well. You recall earlier in the year that there was even a bank that issued 7 naira as dividend. That's unprecedented. And you also recall that one bank also crossed the 100 naira mark sometime earlier this year. So the performance is significant. Even one non-interest bank performed very well and became talk of town in the financial services sector. So I believe that that's why I'm just assuming, I haven't done enough research to be able to say confidently that that's the main reason, because if we do a regression, we might see other factors that account for the flow into the financial services sector. But I believe that that's one of the reasons. The performance has been high, and it should continue to be high. When we look at our economy, we are looking at finances, we are looking at telecommunications. Those are areas that will continue to do very well. Agriculture is also one, but for agriculture, we need more of FDIs than FPI. So I believe that that's what investors are looking at and making their choice.
Now, I'm speaking of countries that contributed to this increase that we've seen. The United Kingdom led, contributing $3.681 billion. That's 65.26% of the total capital imported, followed closely by South Africa and Mauritius. Now, does this over-reliance on a few countries for investment pose any strategic or geopolitical risk?
I don't think so because we are just looking at the origin, not necessarily. So if, for example, we claim that the MSMEs in Lagos are doing significantly well, we most times forget that most of the raw materials that they use are derived from. I was at ABU last week, and I had mentioned to them that we know that in Nigeria, most of the spices and the raw materials for tea, uh, we get them from the northern parts of Nigeria and go take them to Lagos, process them. And so if you look at origination, we abandon the northern parts of Nigeria and say, oh, the production is happening in Lagos. So the fact that the origin looks like it's coming from the UK doesn't necessarily mean that it's the UK that is involved. And so I wouldn't think that it poses any significant political risk. Investors will move their money, their funds from wherever I believe that they would move it to where they can maximize their return. So it's not necessarily something to be scared of. Also understanding that we have a global economy now, unlike before that we had significant restrictions. Investors can move funds from whichever country that wants to make it challenging for them. I'll give you an experience that I had with, I think, my first book that was published. It was published by a company that had an office in South Africa, but the copies were printed in the United States. And so when I wanted to take my royalties, some part of it, the US at that time, I'm not even sure if they currently do have a treaty with Nigeria, a double taxation treaty with Nigeria. And so I had to delay the uptake of that because I was going to be losing 30% of my royalties. So I had to delay until we could figure out a way to get the flows into a country that had a double taxation treaty with Nigeria. So I believe investors are smart, and I don't think that that would be a significant issue. Mauritius, for example, we might even be surprised that some of those inflows are coming from foreign nationals that are Nigerian. I don't want to make that blanket assumption, but it's possible that even some of those inflows are coming from Nigerians who have just stayed abroad for a long time. So I don't think it poses any political or economic risk. But I believe that what we should be careful about, and I know that regulators would be on top of the game, is that we should understand that FPIs are short term, so we shouldn't allow it to dilute financial sector and just make people overtly open to quick appetites, which is not so good for us.
Now, on the state level, we see Abuja, that's the FCT, and Lagos receiving a combined $5.611 billion. That accounts for over 99% of total inflows. Now, why do you think investments are so geographically concentrated, and how can other states attract meaningful capital, seeing that Lagos and Abuja have been at the top for quite some time now?
I answer this question with a poser. If you are supposed to go to a country, for example, most the significant places that you go to are either the political headquarters or the economic headquarters. And we have that differentiated in Nigeria. In some countries, they have them together, both the political as we used to have them before before FCT was carved out in Abuja. And so I think that that's not really a big deal considering what is happening around the country. Abuja is the seat of power. Interestingly, I'm currently in Abuja, and Lagos is the economic hub of Nigeria, even significantly making more. And so I don't think that it's not a big deal per se. But we also have to understand that there was a time that Ogun and Lagos had this altercation, and we're having these conversations about bringing head offices of most of their industrial offices to Ogun State, because they had offices in Lagos but had factories in Ogun, and we're paying more of the taxes to Lagos State. So I think that those ones can also be considerations, especially for states that have very large industrial estates and all of that. But it's nothing strange to see that inflows are going to Abuja and Lagos. And if you also consider the fact that from what we have been hearing, the kind of releases that have been done, projects going on in Lagos and Abuja, then it just makes sense for those inflows in that way. So, but I don't think it's a big deal.
Now, with foreign direct investment remaining low and manufacturing receiving just $129.92 million, what policies or reforms do you think are needed to attract more long-term investment into productive sectors like agriculture or infrastructure?
I think we have had this conversation many times. There are strategic things that needs to be resolved in Nigeria, and electricity is one of that. Energy, it's necessary and necessary for industrial production. We can't do so much without electricity, and it's expensive to build your own plants. Not everyone can have that capacity to do that, considering even the fact that borrowing rates are significantly high at around 27 to 33%, even more in some instances. Also, we have to resolve infrastructure, roads, connectivity. I should be able to wake up today in Abuja and say I'm going to Maiduguri. I should be able to move from there to Taraba. I should be able to move from there to Cross Rivers, then come down to Lagos, go to Bayelsa. But even with 1 million naira, that trip that I just talked about, I don't think you can make it in 1 week. So it doesn't. If we cannot move freely within Nigeria, then there's little that we can do with respect to growing industries. Thirdly, we also have to fix policy. I know that the Presidential Committee on Ease of Doing Business, they're doing well, but there are still some things that have not been fixed. Just recently, we had this scare about the 5% increase in petroleum tax and all of that, or tax on petrol, rather. And so we have these things that it looks like we're taking one step forward and two steps backwards. And so I think it scares investors. Risk is good, and investors are willing to take risk. But when policy creates uncertainties, then it becomes a big issue for investors. So if our policy can address some of those uncertainties, then that's fine. I believe that would work. And I think the fourth one, maybe I should just stop at the fourth item, and is social values. Our value system in Nigeria also, with respect to hard work, entitlement, needs some rejigging, I must say. And so if I don't have that kind of money, but imagine that I have money, I go to my village and start a factory, an industry, people will begin to feel like, oh, he has money, let's squander his money. The commitment is, no, let's allow this industry to grow because it's also going to benefit us. It's not there. That commitment is not there. What they're saying is, oh, let me take advantage and get the best out of this, not considering the fact that taking the best out of it might lead to the death of that company and also lead to worse economic situations for themselves. So I believe that while the government has significant roles to play in fixing electricity, infrastructure, internet access, security, very important. We as the people also have our roles to play in ensuring that we support production. Many people, because I talk with ecosystem actors a lot, many people have abandoned business ideas, factory development and all of that because they're like, oh, the people are just here to cheat me out, and so they just leave it at that and prefer to do FPIs, like I said. So those are issues that we need to resolve in Nigeria, and it's a collective effort. Yes, government has, I would say, 90% of that responsibility, while the people has about 5 to 7%, and other factors can then play in to support the inflows of FDIs.
Well, just before I let you go, Mr. Oladili, looking ahead, this is a very impressive one, and also considering global economic headwinds and Nigeria's internal dynamics. What trends do you foresee in capital importation over the next year or two in terms of volume, sources, and even sectoral distribution?
Okay, so I believe that this would continue into 2025, even 2026. I'm not sure about 2027 because it's an election year. And so usually the FPIs would also moderate based on expectations. You know, it's still 1 year and some months that we have to get to 2027. So I might not be able to say clearly what exactly would happen. But from now till 2026, I believe that there will be significant inflows because uh, the service sector significantly is performing well. And so I expect significant inflows. Unfortunately, also, I can't say the same for FDIs because of the challenges I've mentioned. And I don't think I'm seeing any significant efforts on the part of government in resolving those issues that I've also mentioned. So I don't think there will be significant increase in FDIs. For sectors, I still feel that the banking sector, the financial services sector generally would enjoy significant inflows, while places like agriculture and manufacturing would, don't let me use the word suffer, but would endure the remaining inflows that come. And for location, I still believe Lagos and Abuja would receive most of the inflows, except I'm hearing about Abia states that they're doing a lot there. I haven't done enough research to be able to say how much they can pull into the states, but I believe that they're also receiving significant attention, even internationally. And basically, I think that that's all about that. We expect inflows to come, and I expect FPIs to trump FDIs, but that expectation is based on reality. My hope is that we are able to turn that around and have more FDIs. We need patient capital in Nigeria to boost our economy, increase our productivity, and ensure that people can take up jobs. It's a significant circle if we can get FDIs into Nigeria because it's going to help a lot with many areas of our lives. But like I said, investors go to where they get the highest returns, and so that's the expectation that will fuel their decisions.
Well, public policy enthusiast Mr. Femi Oladili, many thanks for lending your thoughts on the program. And that's it on this episode of the program. Many thanks for joining us. I'm Okbayemi Owosheni. See you next time.